self-care. The word is all over social media. And I've started to wonder, is it just a trend? Like, are we perceiving it as just a trend? Are people living the self-care lifestyle just to fill their social media pages? And is it maybe just a fancy word for something like we call regular walks hot girl walks now? But then I realized that it's not, or at least it shouldn't be. While all seems perfect on Instagram and TikTok and all of these other apps, self-care isn't just taking bubble baths and putting cute face masks on. There's so much more behind it than a minimalist lifestyle and taking some time to take care of yourself. So, in this episode, we'll touch on what is self-care really? How do I practice self-care without feeling guilty? And how you can do that too, of course. Then the living actual life part versus the social media part. And also other questions that I'm asked frequently. So, hello everybody. Welcome or welcome back to Big Sister Chats. Before we dive into the episode, there's a small chapter called If We Were Having Coffee. This is our format where I tell you a little bit about myself and what's been going on in my life lately. So, if we were sitting together and having some sort of beverage, tea, coffee, you choose whatever you want, I would tell you that I'm working on so many projects at the same time. Of course, I'm writing, let's say, almost daily to reach my word count goal for this year, which is 100,000 words in 6 months. And there's some courses, there's a short movie coming up in September. There's also things to prepare for that, of course. So a lot of things to do. But I would also tell you that I took some days off again and I visited Italy with a friend of mine, a much needed break, and also let's call it self-care too, because I needed some time off, or let's say time to take my mind off of these projects, because my mind is always going around and focusing and jumping from one thing to the next. So that was really, really good. And in conclusion, I would tell you that I need to find some sort of balance between the projects there are and the time I should spend doing something else that's not working towards something bigger. Whether that's the podcast or the book or the movie or whatever. There's so many things to do and I'm not burned out right now. But I also see that there is a huge possibility for me that I will eventually get burned out, and I had a heartfelt conversation about that with a friend of mine. And she made me realize that I do need to slow down, because while I can still work like that right now, I might one day not be able to anymore, and I don't want to go from 100 to 0 or from 120 to 0 in a day, or however burnout might come up. So I've made it a goal to take some time for myself and do something else that's not working or personal projects. Yeah, that's my life update. And I mean, if we were sitting together, if you were sitting next to me right now, I would also love to hear what's been going on in your life lately. So let me know either directly in the podcast app you're listening to, on YouTube or on Instagram. And then let's start with the episode.
I swear.
Welcome to Big Sister Chats, the podcast where we dive into all things mental health, physical well-being, and cultivating a positive mindset. Whether it's about growing in life or tackling everyday challenges, I've got you covered. Growing up with 3 brothers, I always wished I had another woman to turn to for advice. If you've ever felt the same way, you're in the right place. Let's get started with today's episode. I wrote down a lot of notes for today, so don't mind me glancing down to my e-reader every now and then because I have my script on there. You can you can still watch me, or you can go off and cook or lay down and just take some time to yourself, or maybe a hot girl walk, who knows what you're doing while you're listening to this episode. Now, let's start with the most important question. And I feel like it sounds simple, but there's a lot more to it. And it's, what is self-care really? So I think we all have this classical image of self-care like we see on social media, which is standing up at 5 a.m., living a minimalist lifestyle, skincare, face masks, working out, healthy food, all of that. But let's take a step back. Let me say this. You should redefine self-care as a daily essential, not a luxury. Self-care isn't just about treating yourself. It's about taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. It can be as simple as setting boundaries, getting enough sleep, or saying no to things that drain you. You should personalize your self-care routine. Let's be honest here. There's no one-size-fits-all approach. You have to find what genuinely feels helpful and what makes you feel recharged. Whether that's reading, exercising, spending time with loved ones, or even organizing your space. And I also want to add that this will take some trial and error. While I might like to clean my space as an act of self-care, you might try that 2-3 times and realize that each time it feels more like a chore than self-care. And that's all right. Make it a chore. It's a chore for you. It's self-care for me. It's, different for everybody else. Find something, try out a lot of things, and find the things that are self-care to you. Then is, how do I practice self-care without feeling guilty? And how do I fit it into my busy schedule? I get that there can be guilt when you prioritize self-care. For example, when you're saying no to somebody, or you cut out some time to go to the gym each day, work out, whatever. Find some time for just yourself, where it's really just you. And I get it. But I encourage you to incorporate self-care in your daily routine. You can, of course, also make it weekly by doing a reset, for example. But try to take at least 5 to 10 minutes a day to do something that makes you feel recharged. Also, another few things that are small, because not everybody has time. That. Not everybody has time to do a full skincare routine and work out for an hour and clean their apartment daily and cook healthy each time. It's just not that easy. So what you can do is just breathe deeply, just put all things away, just sit somewhere where you're comfortable, close your eyes, breathe deeply. You can do a guided meditation if that helps you. You could do stretching, or an act of self-love and self-care can also just be drinking enough water. Then I feel like it would also be good to address the root of your stress. There might be deeper issues that cause stress and burnout, such as overcommitting, poor time management, or toxic relationships. There are only so many things that we can juggle. So I want you to normalize setting boundaries. A crucial part of self-care is learning to say no and setting boundaries with people, work, and also social media. We will have a separate episode how you can prioritize your own needs without feeling selfish. Then I often get asked, is it okay? My self-care looks so different from what I see on social media. Or what if I'm not consistent? What if this isn't just everyday life for me? What if I cook healthy 3 times a week and then somehow I don't on the other 4 days, or somehow life gets in between? What do I do? Why? And also, is it okay if I'm different than what I see portrayed so often? And of course, the answer is yes. You probably could have already guessed it. But what I want to say is that self-care is about growth and not perfection. Just because you choose that you want to prioritize self-care, it doesn't mean that you'll magically now have the perfect skincare and the perfect, it's not like that. It's about growth. And it's not always Instagram worthy. And sometimes it's about doing the hard things, like confronting your own bad habits, seeking therapy, or having tough conversations. If you like to clean your windows, for example, by listening to a true crime podcast as a form of self-care, that's valid too. It doesn't have to look like an Instagram. And remember that you don't have to share your self-care with everybody. If you buy a pretty, let's go back to skincare, something for that, you don't have to take a photo of it and post it to your Instagram story. Most likely you really, really, really don't have to. And I encourage you to just take this time for yourself and make self-care about you. And don't feel pressured to share it with the world or social media. Self-care should be a habit that you work to build, and not a quick fix. It's not something that you just do when you're in a bad place. Of course, it's nice if you're having a rough day to spend some more time with self-care, like taking some extra time, taking a bath, whatever. But to make self-care last, you should really try to incorporate something that you can do on the daily. Now, we've already touched on some self-care activities, and I just had one more written down, which was a daily check-in. For example, I do that every morning. I sit down before heading out to work and I write down, I'm looking over there just to see the notebook. Yeah. Then I often get asked, what are self-care activities that make sense for me? Or what can I do? How many different things are there? And as said, you can make everything self-care as long as it makes you truly feel good. But some things that I've written down as an example are doing a digital detox That could be taking a full day off of your phone. That was a lot of offs. But I had planned to take every Sunday off of my phone and just leave it behind in my room. It didn't work out because I had other things to do. Let's say it that way. Sometimes I would meet up with friends and then I would need it again. So I didn't fully manage to make a day without my phone. But you could try to take an evening off, or maybe it works for you. Maybe you can take a full day off or just some hours, that already helps. But let's get back. There's also journaling and expressing gratitude. You could take a long shower or a hot bath. Movement is definitely a form of self-care, and it doesn't have to be going to the gym. It can be hot girl walks, it can be yoga, it can be dancing, it can be climbing, whatever form of movement you prefer. Deep breathing exercises, decluttering your space, setting boundaries, spending time in nature, meal prepping healthy foods, or just in general, trying to eat healthy, meditating, and practicing mindfulness. But these are just some ideas, you can always search up Pinterest, and I'm sure there's a list of 120 self-care activities, or you could just do whatever feels right. Sometimes it's good to just put all things away, put your phone away, put whatever distractions there are, and just sit and listen and allow yourself to get bored or to feel. It doesn't have to be boredom, but basically don't distract yourself with your phone and just listen to yourself and to your heart and to your body and your mind and see what they tell you should do right now. And probably you'll find some sort of self-care activity that you would really like or need in that moment. And I wanted to address the question, is self-care a trend? And self-care has definitely become a popular topic, and I guess it's also very often commercialized by brands or by influencers. They're getting a lot of money off of the trend kind of aspect with fancy skincare products, let's say, or new gym wear or whatever. There's a lot of things to make money off. But it's important that we recognize that true self-care goes beyond just these trendy products and Instagram aesthetics. It's really not about buying the latest face mask or other items, I guess. It's about taking action and doing something that contributes to your well-being. Self-care shouldn't be just a trend, but a lifelong practice. And why is it so popular now? In my opinion, there are multiple factors, like our increased awareness of mental health, the impact of hustle culture, and also the need for balance in this rather fast-paced world. And while the trend aspect might fade eventually, self-care or the need for self-care certainly won't. And that's it already. Now we'll do a recap of what we have learned today. First, redefine self-care. It's not just an aesthetic, it's taking care of your overall well-being. Incorporate self-care into your daily life. Small, consistent practices like taking breaths or setting boundaries can have a big impact. Self-care is personal. Your routine should be tailored to what genuinely recharges you. It's okay if it doesn't look like everyone else's. Consistency over perfection. Self-care is about growth, not perfection. There are so many forms of self-care. Find what works best for you. And self-care isn't just a trend. While self-care is popular right now, it's more than just a trend. It's a lifelong practice, and it's for managing stress and maintaining balance in this fast-paced life. Now, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Big Sister Chats. I hope you found some inspiration to take your self-care beyond bubble baths. For your call to action this week, pick just one self-care activity from today's list and commit to doing it at least once to see how it makes you feel. You can always switch it up and choose something else, but if it works, that's nice, and you've found one more self-care activity that you can try to incorporate into your life. Remember, self-care is an ongoing journey and not a destination. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or leave a thumbs up and subscribe to this podcast. I would really appreciate it, and it would help me a lot, and it would also help other people so they can find this podcast. So, take care, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!